Hi.
Hi.
How are y'all doing?
Pretty good. It's a Monday shift.
It's a
Not a
Monday shift.
Day, not fun day, but Monday shift.
It is just another not manic Monday because I did nothing this weekend. I took down my hair and I've been having really bad carpal tunnel. And so it was like a 3-day process of taking my braids out. So no braids, which is cool. Yeah.
I like this scarf.
Thank you. Yeah, that's where we are. I have not been swept by the show. However, we have been swept by the timeline.
There's been a timeline sweeps.
There's been a timeline sweeps. And so for us, I'm just gonna frame it up. We're gonna talk about Twitter and all of that up top, and then we're gonna talk about the show. Because we don't want our whole episode that we are like recording on a Monday and like, you know, all of that to like be taken up by something that's like unrelated to the screen, what's going on the screen. And so just like for people who don't know, I actually was like looking at this. It hasn't really made it to like Facebook or anywhere else. So it's really a big Twitter conversation. I'd be interested to see like what happens in the rest of the week. The actor Michael Blake Cruz, who plays Rory, someone found some of his old tweets that, you know, there was some homophobic stuff in there was some anti-Black stuff in there, and people reacted, which they have absolutely every right to do. You know, for me, and then I'll kind of like throw it to y'all. It was one of those things where I'm like, yep. Because he has done all these interviews where he's talked about like all this respect for law enforcement. I'm like, yep. So it's like, I don't even know if I could say I'm disappointed, because like for disappointment, I think you kind of have, I don't know, expectations of people, and I had like literally no expectations. But I definitely, and like also, I'm a person who's like, don't look too close. So I had like looked at some of the people he followed, and I was like, nope, like a while ago. And I was like, don't look, because look, I love people like Jonathan Jackson, and Sandra knows this. I'm like, don't. I love Lucky. I don't want to know anything about Jonathan Jackson's life. Like, and so that's just like one of the ways that I operate. But I also understand how hard it is to separate those things. It's like it's so complicated, and I'm so glad that we're actually able to talk about it together as opposed to like tweeting about it, because I think things that you say in like short character bursts like can always be misconstrued for me, because I'm like a circular person and I'm a processor, and so it's hard to process in that on that platform. So anyway, want to toss it to y'all just to hear, you know, your thoughts, and obviously I have more thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I feel disappointed, and not necessarily because I have expectations. I actually don't expect anyone on the show to have aligned political beliefs with me, in part because my politics are so far to the left than even the leftiest person on this show. Without even knowing everyone's politics, I feel pretty confident saying that. And similarly, like, I knew that Michael's political beliefs were not aligned with mine, purely just from him talking about law enforcement. I think, I have a lot of thoughts. I'm not going to share all of them, because I am a big believer in sitting with hard feelings. And I do have some hard feelings about this. It brings up stuff I think that a lot of folks feel when someone in your community shows their ass. And I think particularly like women and femmes of color often have this like tension with men in our communities where we want them to be seen in their wholeness. We want them to be treated with respect. And at the same time, there is that like expectation that we speak for them as well when they fuck up. And so I'm just sitting with that feeling, which is both like I want to resist it. I also feel compelled towards it. And it brings up stuff where like I'm very clear about the context of like conservative Asians and conservative Filipinos and like why that happens, and have had to make my own personal reckoning with that in a lot of different ways. And I'm not going to go into the details of that because I also am not interested in giving him cover for the things that he said. He said what he said. We all have to kind of reckon with what we put out into the world. And what I will say is that I have to believe that people can change and do better. Like that's just part of my own political beliefs. It's how I do my work. And also, I have that kind of compassion towards people because of the political thought leadership of Black people. And so like I'm able to have compassion for folks also because of like the people who are being harmed by these words. So that's what I have to offer as far as that's concerned. And also the tweets were fucked up. They were shitty. I personally felt hurt by them. And I don't know how it will impact how I see the character. I'm sitting with that too. I don't know. I think I'm gonna just like let it play out. And I also understand that for some folks it will. And I think I'm a big believer in people should sit with the feelings that they have and that they should be allowed to feel them. And I'm never interested in telling people how to feel. I might not always be perfect about that, but that's how I try to lead. And yeah, I think that's where I'm at with it. Is like, I'm disappointed. I have found the public apology to be very lacking for a lot of different reasons, which I think people have really gone into on Twitter. So I won't go deep into that because I don't really have anything else to add. And I hope Tabiana feels like supported. And I think that's honestly like my biggest concern, is how does this impact her? And feeling sadness about how this was a big week for her storyline around the love triangle. And it feels like sad to have this conversation, it's like not detract from it, and not to say it's like because people are talking about it, but rather like it is what it is. It has detracted from that conversation. So,
yeah.
Ooh. So I came to this whole thing a little late. I actually came to the show on Friday a little late. So I didn't watch GH or any of the soaps Thursday or Friday because I just had so much going on at work and I just didn't have time to catch up. So I spent Saturday catching up. And so on Saturday morning, I saw the scene between Trina and Rory, and I was super excited because it was like super hot and it was great. And she had that flirtatious moment with him at the pool, and I was super excited because Rory, as presented, is sweet. He he presumes Trina's innocence, and he, isn't afraid to tell her that. He's been flirtatious with her. Obviously, he's attracted to her. And so I thought this was awesome. And so when I heard about the tweets, I became disappointed and sad, because what it did is it took away my good feelings about their relationship. And it's hard because there's a number of instances where we are let down by actor or the humans behind the characters that we love, especially particularly in the Black community. I mean, the biggest one being Cosby. I grew up on Cosby, loved him. And then after hearing about what he's done, I cannot look at that show the same way. And so I'm kind of feeling the same way about MBK's tweets. He had said some serious, he said some racist things about Black people. And here he is now playing a character who's supposed to love or like a Black woman. So now it makes me think, is that all? Like, how can we trust in that? And there's a lot of issues around interracial relationships, and particularly, and MBK is not white, but say Black women with another man of color, different race. It reminds me of, I think it was maybe a social media story where a woman wrote into some sort of Ann Landers type, right? And she writes in that, she has the most loving husband. He's wealthy. He showers her with gifts. But then when they make love at night, he calls her a nigger. So it's like, you don't know who you can trust with your heart and your feelings, and thinking that, okay, maybe I can find love outside my race without feeling that I can be terrorized and traumatized by feelings that they have about the whole culture. And so when I look at now that I'm going to be looking at Rory and Trina, I'm going to be thinking he's, maybe he's professing his love to her, but he doesn't feel that way about her. Maybe he's getting training at the police academy or by cops to automatically assume negativity. But since he has a physical attraction to someone, maybe he thinks Trina is special or different, because that's how some races are able to be friendly with a one-on-one person. Like they believe the one Black person that they know is great, but the rest of the culture is trash. That's what I'm thinking about now. That's how his tweets have tainted that good relationship. And so now I'm wondering if I could trust it. So that's the hard thing about actors. On the one hand, actors are supposed to play someone that they're not. But on the other hand, it's like your image and how you portray yourself off screen can really color how someone sees your character. Unfortunately, people like actors like Cosby, I can't watch his shows anymore and enjoy it, because I know deep down he's just this misogynist rapist. And I'm thinking, any character he plays is that person. It's hard to, disconnect that. And so, unfortunately, that's how MBK's tweets has tainted this love story for me. And I'm really sad and disappointed. And I really hope, just like you said, Sandra, that Tabiana, I don't know if Tabiana knew about the tweets beforehand. I don't know if she's having conversations with MBK. But I'm hoping, she doesn't have to be working with someone that's so problematic that could eventually hurt her. I hope that something is happening. Maybe GH does counseling. I don't know, but it would be really hard for me to act with someone knowing that they feel that way about my community.
It feels unlikely that GH offers that kind of thing.
Like a mediated conversation, or I don't know. It's just, I hope they understand how this could be traumatizing to her and somehow deals with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I'm like, I actually want to talk about the situation separate from the character for me, because I actually still don't know how I feel about the character. But what I'll say is that like anti-Blackness is like rampant, inexcusable, period. Like that's it. And it's sad. And part of the way it really hit me is in the last 2 weeks. And I know that sometimes I'm like, damn, I really wish I lived in Tanya's bubble of like not seeing the timeline so much. But in the last couple of weeks, you know, we, the three of us, have had these like attacks like waged on us around like people calling us, for example, the woke police, or there's been stuff like calling us social justice warriors. And it's one thing, I mean, you know, you see our YouTube comments and it's always people like, why do y'all care about race so much? Or you hate white men. And like that, I think because of our work can sometimes just be a little funny. Right? Like when somebody says that to us, I like respond like, thank you for noticing, you know what I'm saying? Or like whatever it is, like on our YouTube. But some of that other stuff had actually been waged by people like who just didn't like the ways that we've stood up for diversity. So Sandra has like made a point to talk about like what Asian representation means on the show. And then we got like things waged at us because like we said that and like we uplifted it. Nothing that this man has said impacts like what I've said about representation, period. Like it just doesn't. So there was like this thing with that happened with MBK, and people were like, see, this is what y'all get. And it was like subtweeting, but several that was like, this is what y'all get for like standing for somebody who you don't know, or standing from like and I was like, actually, Tracy has never stand for this man as an individual ever. Because I knew he loved the cops, period. Like, if you follow my personal, like, you know, and I don't recommend if you love the cops to follow me personally, but like my work is like defunding. I've like joked about defunding the PCPD when it's not really a joke. Like, I don't stand for individuals, like, but what I've said about representation like stands. And so it was like really a mind fuck for me to like see this like conversation happen after like women and femmes of color, us, have been like, you know, attacked for speaking on it. Mm-hmm. So that was like a thing. Like it was also Tanya, like we did this like misogyny in soap space, and after we like spoke out about what happened with Bobby, with like between Bobby and Nina, and like I think that we were really clear that it wasn't about like not having this like time where you could attack people and say what you want to say about people's past, but like, you know, when I didn't watch the soaps at the time that Bobby was on at the beginning, obviously. So I had to like go back and read about her. And I was like, wait, some of this shit happened when she was underage. And so when that happened at the time, you know, in 2022, we should actually know better than talking about like underage sex workers in this way. And so you could have had the whole scene without that line. And that was like the point that we were making. And then all of a sudden it was like, y'all don't understand soaps. And if you look in like Facebook and a bunch of other places, we're having this conversation like, well, she was a hoe, she was a slut, she was this, who cares? And so for me, just in general, it was like really a mind fuck to see like this conversation after how people had been like addressing us both directly and like kind of subtweeting us. I'll also say, like I have notes. I'll also say that like his apology sucked because he's not sorry. It's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure he's sorry that y'all saw it. And maybe there are like some of the like explicitly racist things that he might not have said in 2022 or like whatever, but this was like clearly, and so people like there was a kind of conversation and like this was put out to derail the ship. When you saw like it was a whole account that was like created that like pulled up his old tweets, and it flooded both the Sabrina and the Warina hashtags. I'm not saying that the person who did this is worse than what he said. I would never say that. But this was explicitly done to be part of a ship war. And like for me, it was like really concerning because the other, you know, like if this would have happened when he first was cast, if this would have happened when whatever, but this like was timed directly when like they have a scene that actually catches fire.
Mm-hmm.
Not the first scene where they were together. Not the first scene where we've seen, like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's been on for like a minute. We actually knew he was coming on early because it got leaked, or, you know, not leaked, but like it got leaked on set. So it actually happened to coincide with derailing this like ship. And I also have some feelings about that because I was really excited for Tabiana, and Tabiana was really excited for that. She was really excited. Like you could see her Soap Opera Digest interview. She was like talking about like Twilight and Bella, and like, you know, for us, I was like, damn, this is about to be like a Sunny Jax Brenda, but in our time kind of love triangle. And so I'm sitting with all of that. It's not blame for people putting it out, but it's just like the timing is the timing is the timing. It sucks because otherwise this weekend we would have all been talking about these scenes. That's what the conversation would have been about. But now the conversation is about this man who I kind of already knew was conservative, didn't know the levels of anti-Blackness, and fuck him for that. Like you know, that's not whatever. This is absolutely not an excuse for him. And I just want to be like 100% clear that that's not what we're saying, or that, you know, but that it just like sucks the timing, and it sucks that something so serious has been interjected into like fictional relationships. And then the last little note I have is that I also think, you know, I can't tell people how to feel. I actually don't know how I feel because it is going to be different to like see this person on screen with a young Black girl, not knowing, like, there was like a tweet that was like, he's a really good actor because he made us believe that he liked, I was just like, anti-Blackness has never stopped anybody from being attracted to Black women. Please, let's not do this. Like, please, let's not do this at all. But there are people, and this is me tracking because I don't ever want to be, my activism is not about letting people of color, especially men of color, be as harmful as white men. That's not what my activism is about. But it is telling that we also know that there's a whole ass MAGA that's about to come on to be Brit's boyfriend. A whole ass MAGA from One Life to Live. And I know I saw one tweet that people uplifted about him, but I didn't see an account dedicated to like pulling his old tweets or like pulling off like things that he said. We just hosted a space on Sam, like Kelly Monaco, like, and we talked a lot about the character of Sam. And all of us were like, yeah, J Sam is still our ship. You know what I'm saying? Like I was watching some J Sam clips the other day. And so it's like even hypocritical of me to be like, I don't know how I'm gonna see this when I know Steve Burton's a whole ass white supremacist. Like we have the clips of him talking about chicken and watermelon in the ghetto. So you know, it's complicated. I think that it's gonna still be talked about. I hate that Tabiana is like the person that's like bought in it. He like named her in one of his tweets, which is like the first time I actually responded. I was like, keep her name out your mouth. Don't do it. I think his family has like hopped on, and that's because like all you can do is like try to defend your words because you still mean them. Like you're still a conservative, and he's not the only conservative on that set. He probably now will have more community on the set because they know he feels this way, which is the sad part.
I have a hard time feeling sorry for him about that.
No, I don't feel sorry for him.
Yeah, no,
No.
I know. I'm just, yeah, because I was gonna say something and I forgot. But yeah.
Well, I'll leave it for if anybody wants to close this out, because like I said, I wanted to like have this conversation up front and then close it and talk about the show.
I guess I'll just say, to echo what you've already said, my talking about Asian representation doesn't have didn't start and end with Rory, nor will it. And it is kind of like the holding that those conversations are actually never about one character or one actor. And so I don't know how I'm going to feel about Rory moving forward. But I do know how I feel about representation. And I do know how I feel about being in my integrity and my values when I'm talking about anything, whether that's like my work, whether that's my personal life, and whether that's the show. And so that's my commitment, is still to continue to connect back to that. And also just that, like, I'm sending out compassion most first and foremost for the people who felt impacted and hurt, and disappointed and angry and sad about what he said. That's like, those are actually the people who I want to center in my response. And also fuck those tweets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, thank you, Sandra, for saying that, because I think that's what I was going to talk about when it comes to representation. I mean, I think we all understand that none of our cultures or communities are monolith, right? So we have, you know, even Black Americans who feel the same way as MBK does about our own culture and our own community. But I think part of having representation is understanding that we are a fully complicated, varying group of individuals, no matter what culture we are in. And having representation on the TV will help educate others about that. Regardless of if you agree, it's still good to know that, you know, good to have that kind of knowledge in your mind, you know, that you have different opinions, you have different cultures and beliefs, and to help educate others about that same thing. So I don't think, I agree. There's definitely a benefit to having representation and having different viewpoints shown. And that's not something that we should discourage. And I think that's not something that soaps should shy away from, because one thing is that they like to talk about issues that are important, right? They like to talk about, you know, rape. They like to talk about autism because they want to educate, you know, everybody about it and how to do something about it. But you can't talk about heavy issues and not talk about race, because race impacts everything. You know, even when you're talking about autism, Leo is a wealthy boy who will be taken care of throughout the rest of his life. I have a friend whose son has autism, and she is a struggling single mother. So the things that impact Leo is not going to be the same as it is a young Black mother who has an autistic child. So I would love it if GH would go full into those kind of discussions. But right now, I think you're right, Tracy. I don't think GH is even prepared to even have those discussions with their actors and try to make them feel comfortable about working with people with different opinions. And so maybe they're not even ready to do it on television if they can't even do it behind the scenes. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't stop talking about it. We shouldn't stop encouraging and pushing them, because nothing will change unless we do. And so, yeah, if you think us just talking about issues regarding race means that we have a problem with white people, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I think that is funny. And I'll laugh at you when I have time to go through YouTube comments, but I will.
Most of them.
Right. You know, because, you know, that we are, like Tracy had said in your earlier tweet, we are women of color, or, you know, people of color. So we're going to talk about stuff that's important to us. And if you don't like it, you know what you can do. You can stop watching. You can stop following us. It's okay, because we're still going to talk and we're going to have a good time doing it. And, you know, we're still going to watch the show. You know, our opinions are our opinions. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to be nasty about it to us, though. Because that's the difference. You can say, I don't agree with this thought, but, you know, But don't ever tell us what we can and cannot talk about, because that's not on.
Period. We will not. We will be talking about what we want to talk about.
Right.
Anything before we close this portion out?
Fuck those tweets.
Yeah.
And
yes.
And also to echo Tanya, we're gonna talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about. And that means like both when we're getting like pushback from like obviously like crazy right wingers on YouTube, but also when we're getting pushback from like folks in our own community when we bring up hard stuff, that sometimes there is, I think there's also a difference between like a difference of opinion and dehumanizing people. And like either way, however you choose to come at us, also know that like we are people who have seen a lot of shit and have caught a lot of hateful shit from people over the years because of the kind of work that we do and because of the kind of people that we are. So there's part of me that's like, when I see that kind of shit, that I laugh and I'm like, that's cute. I've seen worse. And at the same time, we are still people. And we deserve like to like respect. And I also like, if you are someone who is in community with us, who also share identities with us, just be mindful that we catch stuff from like far right wingers. So please don't use the same rhetoric that they do to talk about us, because some of the people that were calling us like social justice warriors, woke police, what have you, are actually like not right wingers. Those were like,
also, I'm glad you brought it up. Don't be calling me the woke police, because I don't do police. Find something else, okay? I don't like that. I don't like it.
Call monitor.
Even monitoring.
I don't like surveillance. How about that? I don't like that. And I think that, Sandra, you said something that's also really true. I think, I've always said that like it's really difficult to capture stuff in tweets, right? Like that it does sometimes come off. And so I know you had put up a tweet that I had retweeted and I was like, this is really amazing. And it was something about, it was something really about like people like wanting the character Rory to be shady and all these things. And you just put like, hey, just flagging that like, we shouldn't like, and it was like, and like the way I read it was like this colloquial that it was like about media, it was about the show. And then I think some people took it as like personal attacks because it's what they liked and they wanted. And so like I hopped into a spaces and I was like really happy to be able, because people were talking about it. And I was really happy to be able to be like, no. People are allowed to want what they want, like what they like. This was just like a flag to be mindful. And so, I'm never going to always get it right. But one of the things I'm super committed to is to not just be like talking shit about people I'm in relationship with. And in relationship means like in the DMs, in whatever, like I just like, that's not how I operate. So I think it's like really important to remember that like a lot of like, if we put up tweets or like a thread of tweets, it's not about one person or two people. It's about a collective way that we talked about things. So I remember even saying like, I just like, for me, it was weird to see us like asking for stuff, like asking for Rory to be like what we pushed back when they made Diego that years ago. We were like, how the fuck dare you make this man of color a monster? And then people were like, we want this man of color to be a monster. You know what I mean? Like, and like for me, I was like, oh, I don't know, y'all. And it wasn't like a personal thing, or like you could still want that. I was just flagging that like feels away for me. And so I never want to come off as like telling people how they should like watch a show, how they should feel about it. It's really about how I feel and like the context of like how I see things. Because Sandra, you've actually said this about days and I really appreciate it, which is like, You know, there's so many queer characters on Days. So when queer characters on Days do some wild ass shit, you feel less like inclined to have to like be like, this is like, you know, this is like a problem for community, right? Because there's not one representative. There's like several. And with like something like GH, especially around race, they are race lineages of characters. So it's not even that people aren't there anymore. It's that they're not even spoken about.
Mm-hmm.
It's that, like, you know, I just did like a rewatch on Discord with Susie. We were watching Night Shift. And I was like, damn, we don't even talk about Dr. Kelly Lee anymore. We don't talk about Lainey Winters anymore. You know, we have to do this like shady ass story around paternity for Trina. We don't have any wards. Like, we don't have, like, there's no institutional memory of these like super important legacy characters that happened. And so like when we talk about representation, that's what we're talking about. That we're like, I was like specifically saying around a character like Rory, that if he turned out to be a monster, which is fine, like maybe that happens, but if he did, there is no redeeming a man of color character. So like Days could be like Ben Weston, cute little white boy. You can be, look, I learned his name for you just for this, Sandra, because I call him Sin all the time, like just the couple name. But like Ben Weston could be like this cute little white boy who was like a serial killer and killed like a legacy fucking character and be redeemed by like on the back of like Marlena Evans. You know what I'm saying? Like that could happen. And it actually does not happen for characters of color ever. And so just like flagging that that's like a way that like that we continue to get erased. And it's not that you can't be like, I hear all that and I still want him to be, you know, Ryan's kid. Like, sure, all of that. You can feel all of that. It's just like having it in mind. So I wanted to like make sure that I touched on that too.
Yeah, because I was thinking about Hat Daddy, who I can't stand, but the actor is okay. I'm still thinking he could still be evil, but he's a legacy. He's, well, not necessarily legacy because he's with the Black family, but he could be a legacy character that could be redeemed. Maybe they're trying to redeem him now, but I haven't forgotten that he actually beat up somebody way back a long time ago, and he has anger issues, and maybe they're trying to redeem that by giving him mental health issues, so that way to explain why he can go off on people in a minute. I don't know, but you're right, Tracy. It's hard for us to trust that because they don't necessarily redeem Black characters if they go bad. You know, and it would be great to see that. Great to see that he can be evil and still stay on the canvas.
Yeah. No, it's always too far. They always say, I'm like, what did this person do? Like,
Right.
It's like, why diversity in terms of just representation alone, like number of characters of color, number of, or like having one of each, which is their fave. They love to have a one of each. And when you actually have both like a threshold of like a number of characters and like demonstrated investment, and also like that the show has demonstrated that they can keep characters on for longer than an arc, right? Like there have been Asian characters on GH, but once the Asian Quarter arc was over, they were gone. And so with Days, we know that white cis gay men, for example, are heavily represented, and they're not disposable, in part because some of them are legacy characters, and also because of, you know, the stance, the political stance, and the identities of the head writer, Ron. So it's like, I both can feel less vigilance around the representation for them on Days because of all those things, and also because they're white men for the most part. Because I'm keeping my eye on the rest of the queer, you know, like when it comes to the queer women on the show, they still have some things that they need to prove to me. So I just wanted to make that distinction as well. Like it's diversity and the waves of it, the stages of it also matter. And so it's not enough just to have certain characters, but like do they have community of people of similar identities? And like, what does this mean in the longer arc? And holding that with the actors are also people who live out in the world who often have beliefs that are opposed to ours. Or, you know.
I think they're doing okay with Brad. At least they're trying to. Well, he keeps coming and going, but I think hopefully with Selena on the campus, we could see him a lot more and he stays and not just have him come out during the month of May or just be on the show.
One way to really demonstrate a commitment to your actors of color is to put them on contract. So I think that's actually where I'll leave it. Like there are like actual structural commitments that you can make that aren't just about, having characters on your roster. Because actually right now Rory is the only Asian character whose actor is on contract. Everyone else
is the only one on a contract. So Selena and Brad aren't on contract.
Selena, Brad, and Terry, the actors are not on contract. So that's a very clear demonstration, right? Let's put some queer characters. Let's put some queer characters, actors on contracts. Let's put, that's a very clear structural way to demonstrate your commitment to diversity.
Also with guarantees. Because that's like why we see like Carly, Nina, and Sunny so much, is that not only are they on contract, but they have like a guaranteed amount of shows that they're on, right? Is that how it works?
Well, that's part of the contract process,
right?
Now. But that wasn't always the case, but yeah.
So like, let's put some like actual like numbers and show guarantees behind that too. So anyway, we have talked about that. Are y'all ready to go to the Soap Central recap? Shout out to Soap Central.
Look at you citing your sources.
Shout out to Soap Central because I did not really do a recap. I'm gonna be real with y'all. This has been a rough ass week. I've just been like scrolling and popping edibles and trying to do work. Like the week has been the week. You know what I'm saying? So I have like some top lines. There are things that are left out. If you come here for your recap, I suggest you go read the entire Soap Central roster because I don't have it. This is like a recap in 60 seconds, if that.
I love it.
Just some, So here we are. Recap. After realizing that she was behind all of the strange occurrences, Liz checked into Shady Brook with Finn vampiring over her shoulders. Marshall recovered from his injuries and reconciled with his family. The clarinet is the clarinet. It's in pieces. Victor returned to Port Charles and noticed the rift between Ava and Nicholas. Esme's plan is planning. Sunny took the stand on Nina's behalf. That was Mike Reeves. Carly postponed picking up the DNA results, or DNA test results. Carly is Carlying. Whew, a mess. Chet received an unexpected job offer in Chicago due to his awful ass sister, Amy. Terry, however, encourages him to take it, leading to the end of Cherry. Chase refused to help Brooklyn set up the music producer with the rights to her songs. Another unnecessary barrier for Chalene. Put these two beautiful people in bed together. Nobody wants to see the rest of it. And the love triangle with Trina in the middle heats up, as we've seen. Our girl Trina, love her. Yes, niece. That's all I got for recap. There were more things that happened. Again, I get this recaps from Soap Central. I usually read them all. I distill them down. You can do that this week for yourselves.
Yes.
What was your favorite moment of the week?
Who's going first?
I can go. I think I already said it. My favorite moment was Rowena at the pool. But I said what I said about that. I think I guess my second favorite moment was it not because of MC, but Ava and Nick scenes. I think Ava again, or Maura West again, showed her incredible acting chops. And I started thinking about how they film scenes, right? And how maybe, she acts out these story arcs and then the editors chop it up and intersperse it, because I think those scenes kind of extend from last week where, she may be doing it all at once, and her having, the fights with Nicholas and then going to Spencer and then, having another fight and all this other stuff. I kind of feel like she's pulling those same performances out and are consistently strong, and it's really great. And, my favorite moment was when she was like, I was the best thing that ever happened to you. Yes. It's 100% correct, Eva. And Nicholas is the fool for letting that go over some, teenage girl that's hella problematic.
Yep.
Not even problematic. That girl's a problem.
Right. Is a problem. I mean, she was 100% correct. She's like, you and Spencer are the only ones who are defending Esme.
Ooh, and he looks even more foolish because at least, Spencer's has a bad plan, but it's, not the same as being completely hoodwinked. He looks very foolish, which I do love. I do love it when this Nicholas looks foolish. So there's that.
I mean, it's not Nicholas.
Right.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Yeah, our Nicholas is kidnapped by Helena somewhere, and
he is on Cassadine Island. That's her roster. I stand by it. I said what I said, which is the theme of this week. I said what I said. My two favorite were both Spencer, because my child is like, they're not really giving Nicholas Chavez a lot, but he's making it happen. So him at the gallery, like rolling in, dropping something, and then looking at his phone, being like, "Of course, Crazy's calling me." Like it was delightful. I've watched it so many times. It's so good. And then like him and Cam, I have just, we have not gotten a lot of grounding from Spencer, and it's hard because him and Trina are like on the outs. I thought that their scene this week didn't make a lot of sense, but I loved it anyway. I don't care if it makes sense.
Oh.
Like, I don't care. It was like
I'm glad I wasn't the only one that felt like I didn't understand where the scene was going. I mean, but he acted his ass off on it though. So
every time. Right. Him and Tatiana are magic. And I mean, it doesn't have to make sense for me. It's provocative. It gets the people going, whatever. I don't care. It was like, you remember way back, there was like that scene between him and Trina at the hospital that was like put in there. It was like,
oh, that one was
make sense.
The most nonsensical Sabrina scene of all time.
Yeah, so I was like, whatever, as long as we get them together and there's a moment to like actually see their connection, because the way the story is, you don't get to see it that much. Mm-hmm. So I loved it. But the grounding force for Spencer recently has been Cam. So to see him like break out and be like, I gotta go check on Cam.
Yeah.
And just like that very sweet, like, whatever you need, like, because we get so much selfish Spencer. And and like self-centered Spencer that like it's so important to see, and like we get to see beyond Trina that he is actually growing and caring. So like we know he cares for Trina. We've seen that over and over. To see that relationship kind of blossom and grow with Cam is so sweet and so special. And I just really love that moment. I'm gonna take care of Aiden and Jake if you need me, aka your cousins, but you know, I'll leave that alone.
Yeah. They have a really hard time reckoning the family connection with that dialogue because they're like, we're cousins, but we're not going to talk about how, and that you're related to other people as well in each other's whatever. No, I love those scenes too. I just kept on being like, my child and his cousin. I really loved the Sabrina scenes. Those were my favorite. I actually really loved everything around the triangle and everything around the kids this week. So good, as usual. These were my favorite new Sabrina scenes. I think a lot of the dialogue was confusing. Like I was like, in the triangle scenes in general, like there were also stuff that happened between Trina and Rory that I was like, what? Like when he talked about I'm gonna right the wrong, and then they just like the conversation went in a totally different direction after that. I was like, so bro, how you doing that? I'm tired of these men and their non-plans. It's like a lot of vibes, but no, where are the steps? Plans have steps, okay? But I what I liked about the new Sabrina I think it highlighted for me what I like about the new Sabrina connection, which it's very kind of spicy and edgy. And those were actually things when Sabrina, like when Sydney and Nicholas's Sabrina had tension, were actually like some of my favorite moments when they were like a little spicy with each other. And so seeing that kind of take off with Tabiana and Nicholas has been fun for me. It's like very like they both have their reasons, which are very different from staying away from each other. Like they should absolutely, both of them should stay away from each other and not engage, but they just can't help themselves. And that's really fun to watch. Like Trina, when I take away the words that they were saying and just look at like the emotional arc of their scenes, it makes sense. And that's because Tabiana and Nicholas are artists.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them. Like they're both very deep in process and have a very heavy emphasis on like the subtext of the scenes. And that's really important with Sabrina because they are, especially now, all subtext. So you got like Trina annoyed and then like still sitting down to talk to Spencer inexplicably. And then even catching herself being like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then she's mad at Spencer, but she's also mad at herself when she's leaving. Like she's like, why am I goodbye? And I loved when she just like ordered him to finish his task. I loved it so much. Cause like it's like, who doesn't love to see Spencer Cassadine ordered around? If you don't love to see that, I don't know what to do for you. And then Spencer is like acting out, and he is so pleased to have Trina's attention, even though like she's annoyed as hell at him. He's just like, I will take any attention that you will give me. And then kind of like switching to being furious that she is like slipping away from him towards Rory. And like, so he's like a little mad at her. He's mad at Rory. He's really mad at Esme that we see later on. And, you know, he's got to be pretty mad at himself because this ultimately, he is the person that brought all of this upon them. Right? Yes, Esme manipulated him. Yes, fuck her forever. 10,000. And he is having to really reckon for the first time in his life with the consequences of his actions. So I really enjoyed the scenes. It was nice to see them connecting without completely ignoring like what's happening between them. And I like that push and pull, even if some of the writing. Oh, and of course, in closing, the art motif is back. You can't have light without the shadows. When he said that, I was like, Spencer Cassadine. Fuck boy. That's my child.
I just really was so delighted with the triangle in general this week. For everything that you said about Sprina, I just like miss them in scenes together. I hate the conflict. I could really just watch a whole Sprina show, to be honest with you, because like that's what we're here for. This is what I show up for. And I loved the moment when both of them were just like, what do you care? Like that was like like both of them, to your point. And I also appreciated, there was a Princess L on Twitter said this, and like when she said it, I was like, why would you say that? When she was like, he just misses his friend. So like when she wouldn't confide in him, that's when he like really turned up. Because like no matter what has gone on between them, they've always had that. Where she's, you know, when something happened with Portia, she confided in him. Like he has been that confidant. And for a character like Spencer, like that's so important because so few people he has been that for so few people.
Yes.
So like in addition to like these like deep feelings he has for Trina, like he also feels very useful in being like a sounding board for her. And it also like put in perspective is, even though I'm still mad at him, that he is like not really confiding anybody about his plan, it put in perspective for me even more why it's so important for him that he is her hero. Because because that is the connection that they've had, that he has been this person and he can't be this person anymore. She's like, I'm gonna do it extra big so that you know that you can count on me. And remembering that it's not just about the like attraction between them, but the actual like deep like emotional connection, I think really regrounded me into why Sprina is so important.
Yeah, as he was hurt by her in that conversation. He's like, is it so hard for you to believe that I can do something nice? And I was just like, well, and from Trina's point of view, yes, because you won, you were nice to her, and then you threw her under the bus, and you did all this stuff. They were talking about Ava and Nicholas, and he was like, you did all this stuff to your dad, and now you want me to believe that you're actually trying to develop a relationship with him. So from her point of view, she can't trust that he can do stuff, and that hurt his feelings a lot, because I was a little put off towards him yelling at her like, Trina, what's going on? I was like, but then I had to think about it. It was like, he's not only jealous, he's hurt, and he can't confide in her, and he wants to, and he's trying to keep her there to talk to. So yeah, he just kind of had a bit of an outburst. So I had to, take a step back from that. But yeah, there's a lot going on in that. And it was greatly acted.
Yeah, when he raised his voice, I was like, get that bass out your voice, Spencer Castle. I didn't raise you this way.
I didn't raise you a lot of these ways now.
Oh, go ahead. Will you say something, Sandra?
Okay, so no.
I was going to say, who was your performer of the week? Was that good, huh? That easy, huh?
No, it was not. But I'm gonna give it to Maura, just because she was great this week, and I think she was great for the past couple weeks. And I, had to give it to other people, but Maura West, obviously, I mean, she had some great. I was feeling for her because she was super hurt by Nicholas. And, because she kept saying it over and over, even in other arguments, she kept saying, what about me? I'm your family too. Mm-hmm. And you're not treating me like your family, not treating me like your wife, and, she's hurt by that. She's drinking and she's lashing out, but she is perfectly justified in that. Even if, it's not about Esme, it's about just decisions that he's making and not really considering her. it's hurtful, and he acts like it's her fault, like she is making him choose between Spencer and her. He's always been making those choices. He set that expectation from the beginning when he was willing to let his son think he was dead and continuously do so while he was married to Ava and all of that. So he's the one that's making these choices, and he's blaming her for it because he's a fuckboy. So that's not our Nicholas, so it's okay. But Mara West is just really amazing, and always want to give her props. I'm kind of like you, Tracy, when you said if I was to be if I had Jeannie Francis play my mother, I would do that with Mara West. I would fawn over her all the time because she's amazing.
She would be sick of me.
Right.
Be like, oh my God, here comes Sandra again. Like, when are they ever going to shut up about how beautiful and talented and wonderful I am? My God. Why are you so obsessed with me? And I'll be like, Laura, look in the mirror. That's why. But I'll honor your boundaries. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What can't Mara West do? I mean, it also like speaks volumes that both Sydney and Tatiana have spoken so highly of her.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's meant a lot to me. She seems to be someone who like really is interested in developing younger actors. Like, so as a person, she seems like, like what we know of her seems great. And like as a performer, as like a fellow like actor to like the other younger actors. But like what she is able to do on screen is just, I mean, it transforms and like you cannot look away from Mara West. And she makes you feel every single feeling. And that goes from when she's a background actor to like when she just makes the faces to like when you give her like an arc that like you bring. I mean, there's no way that I should love Ava.
None.
Like after the Morgan stuff, after like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just like, for me personally, Tracy, there's not a reason that I should love Ava. But there is no way I'm not going to love somebody that Mara West is bringing to life. It's just like there's no way because she's just that good.
And she's very compelled. I mean, she scares me. Ava as a character scares me. Like I would not want to cross her. But I also would want to go out to dinner with her. And I would want to work in her gallery. And I would, I would want to do all these things. Like the pivotal scene whenever she goes off on Esme, like really threatens her. It's hella scary. I don't know how Esme can feel like she can just pull these shenanigans against Ava Jerome. She somehow, for some reason does, but I would be scared of her. I would not want to be in that house.
Yeah. I like, we've talked about other characters on the show who are like wild, like Carly, for example, where I'm like, with someone like Carly, where I'm like, oh, like if I ran into you out on the town, I'd be like, tell me about your wild ass shit, girl, but I'm not inviting you over to my house, right? It's like, I would be like friendly acquaintances with you. I would be like amused by your shenanigans, but we're not going to be kicking it. With Ava, I'm just like, I would be your friend. I would be your crazy ass friend. Absolutely. I mean, I would hope the sane friend to you, the crazy ass friend. But there is something about the way Mora is seductive without it being a sexual scene, right? Like she just draws you in and makes you feel the humanity of Ava no matter what is going on with Ava, even when Ava is like being completely feral, which is honestly one of my favorite like versions of Ava. But what I really appreciated about this scene is that like the things that Nicholas were saying were so out of touch with reality and completely out of pocket. Like, and it could have taken away from the scene the way that a lot of other scenes have actually been playing out lately, where like they've been so like the dialogue has been so strange and like disjointed and disconnected that you're kind of like, what's happening here? But she makes things feel so emotionally true. So like she's reacting with the kind of hurt that her character would feel to hearing these like very untrue, like gaslighty things, honestly. Because like she has not been perfect with Spencer, nor should she have to be, because of all the things that he actually has done to her.
She also didn't fake her death with Spencer, but here we go.
And that's partially my point, is that she's actually been more in her integrity with Spencer than he has. She has more often than not encouraged them reconnecting. But she's also saying, you're not going to do that on my back either. And you're not going to do that on Trina's back. And that's actually where the real line for her is that the times that she's had like the most heat for Spencer are really actually about Avery, who did love the bear. Avery and Trina. So there's just something about Ava, and there's just something about Maura, about the consistency of point of view, no matter what scene she's given. And that you're going to see that whether she is the feature of the scene or she's the back, the supporting.
Absolutely. I mean, she's magic. And can I just insert something really petty? I'm really mad that we didn't get her with Tyler Christopher's necklace.
Yes.
Can you imagine? Ugh, I'm so sad about it.
We had it briefly, but not long enough.
Can you imagine that? Well, they wouldn't give them this story, but can you imagine like the push and pull if we actually would have had a married Tyler's Nicholas with Maura's Ava?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I brought it up. Let's move on. So
you trying to make us sad?
This week has been hard enough.
It's hard enough.
I'm so sorry. So we are so in it. Would y'all like? Can we just do hot takes? Like move like all of the like what we want to see more, or that just like be hot takes?
Yeah, because mine's are like a mixture. Like some of the things I want a hot take on is a mixture I like about it and what I don't like about it. So yeah,
let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do a round robin. Tanya, you first.
Okay. It was funny because about the whole week, right? And so still not feeling swept. But for me, it was also a hard week for daytime TV with all of the news. And rightfully so. GH needed to be interrupted, and but it was hard for me to connect with the show because it was interrupted so much. But I mean, GH did have some more kind of sweet bait type scenes, right? Because they had the dramatic hospital scene with the marshals and the forgiveness. And then they had the conclusion to a mystery, which is not a mystery, with Liz's diagnosis and going to the mental health facility. And then you had the dramatic court scenes, which weren't all dramatic at all. So unfortunately, even though they had the, soap tropes happening that would generally be held during sweeps, I still was unswept because I didn't care about the stories. So unfortunately, that's how this week has gone for me, given the last month of May during a sweeps month that should have been more. It just wasn't. So what do you guys thoughts about this last week of May where they could have swept us?
I mean, you said it. I'm unswept. It was very anticlimactic. And like, I don't think next week looks more climactic, really. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. We'll talk about that obviously later. But no, I mean, with the Liz reveal, It's like, you actually revealed less than I was expecting to be revealed. You have undercut your own reveal. Mostly what I've seen folks speculating online is way more interesting than this. Now, of course, obviously there's more, right? There's going to be more, like, what I can say is Becky's not just going off canvas. Like, there's going to be more Liz storyline ahead. I don't know how much more, but obviously there's like more to her story that's still to be revealed. But I'm like, what? Why are you waiting so long? And why is this the sweeps reveal? This could have happened months ago. And what I'll also say is that it was very disappointing to see. I thought William Lipton as Cameron was so good in those reveal scenes, like so good. I really felt for him. He shouldn't have been my favorite person in that storyline. He shouldn't have had like the breakout performance. It should have been Becky. But what we had is like mostly her point of view was looking to Finn for his opinion of what to do, and like trying to convince him that she needed to go away and take care of herself. That was not, I don't know what they're doing with that, but it was not, it was dusty as hell. It was not sweeping.
Whatever they're doing, they should stop. I would actually say that for me, if like William Lipton was my performer of the week. Every one of his scenes was compelling. Everything he did, like I really love the Cam Liz mother-son dynamic.
Yeah.
They have like built this, they have worked at this, and it's just so natural. Like he completely, like he is so different in scenes with her, and I'm in a very good way. Like that is his mom in these scenes, and he transforms that. And I don't care about Finn in these scenes. I am really disappointed with this like storyline for Becky, because I'm really tired of everything that they do for her being from like very male heavy points of view. So like, even when Roger was there, so much of the family stuff was about him and Cam, or him, you know what I'm saying? Like him and her kids, and not like them as a family. So, and so when he died, when they killed Franco, they still didn't give Becky any point of view. There was still no grieving. There was still nothing. When they killed off Jason, they gave all the point of view to Carly and to Sunny. Like it was nothing for her. And so with this story, you know, I've said this many, many times, and I will continue to say it. I love DID because it gives us an opportunity to like see a character from a different like angle, where like it's, you know, as sad as it is, it's actually like fun. I was just actually watching a little bit of the arc with like Connie and Kate, and like seeing the difference between like them being two different characters. I was looking forward to like seeing Liz twerking in Beecher's Corners and then coming home late at night. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, I wanted to be able to see like some range for that character that like allowed Becky, who's played Liz for 25 years, to like actually, you know, like be able to like show out and showcase and like do all of these things that would be really fun for her and for the character, for the audience. And instead, what we have is like her being broken and then looking to Finn for everything, and like convincing this man who is like, so much of whatever they have developed off screen, that like, I actually don't care what Finn thinks about her getting help. I don't care about what he thinks about her going to shady. Like, who the fuck is Finn?
The more that they try to like demonstrate his importance to her and to the storyline, the more I feel resistant to it.
Yeah.
The more I'm like, why the fuck are you trying to push this down my throat? Now,
Yeah.
if it had happened organically, maybe I would feel less resistant to it, regardless of the fact that I don't think they have any chemistry. Mm-hmm. And I'm not interested in seeing couples that don't have chemistry, especially when we know them to be people that have lots of chemistry with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, because I was like thinking on Tuesday, I'm like, who cares what Finn thinks? Like, you guys haven't, and if they did, I missed it. Like, you guys haven't declared that you loved each other. You guys have not even slept together. You've gone on maybe 2 dates that were interrupted, or something happened. And so, yeah, you're giving him a lot of the decision-making power in your life. It makes no sense.
And I think to Sandra's point about we've talked about this being something that doesn't work. With the show does not invest in relationships. Mm-hmm. Two male writers, a male executive producer doesn't invest in relationships. And so when things that should be relationship based happen, they don't make any fucking sense. So like, we have Nicholas like rushing to the hospital to see what's going on with Liz. The last time we saw Nicholas and Liz together, Nicholas like rolled up to her birthday party and Liz looked at him like, why the fuck are you here? That was like the very last time. Like, that was like, even when like the whole like sex tape reveal dropped, it wasn't like, oh my God, this happened to like these two kids who I've known their whole lives. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like, oh shit, this happened to Liz's kid who was like my nephew. It was like, oh, no reaction. And I mean, part of that is because like, you know, to Sandra's point, we talked about like how Tabiana and Nicholas are like artists and like, they're just gonna like study their script. They're gonna pull out their things and they're gonna know, even if it's not a stage direction, how to respond to something in character. Because Marcus doesn't, he doesn't. And so it made it even more dumb that he showed up to the hospital and like had like this belligerent, you got to tell me what's happening to my friend thing. Because I'm like, is that your friend? The last time somebody asked you about her, you was like, oh, she called, she left me a message, but I ain't called her back yet. So you telling me somebody who is your friend, who is going through all of this with their kids, even if you didn't know about the stalking shit, but your friend who was going through this thing with Cam called you and like you dismissed it by not calling her back yet, but you're so important that you have to like rush to the hospital and demand people give you like, people violate HIPAA to give you information. Boy, fuck you. That's what I got for Nicholas. Boy,
yeah, because like Nicholas, the character of Nicholas, when played by Tyler, and of course, like there towards the end, you know, he was doing some wild shit. Like, there's no denying it. I'm definitely not like, he was not a perfect character. And when people in his life were in trouble, even when he had his own storylines going, they always showed like Nicholas, you know, with Alexis, for example, and like when Christina was in trouble, like him like weighing in, like him being like, let me get the resources, let me move some shit around to help you, like what do you need, like being overly, like him and Elizabeth being overly involved in each other's lives, even when they weren't romantically involved, you know, like he is very isolated. And also when they've tried to like play on those relationships that he has, they've also fallen flat, which I imagine is part of the reason why they're not putting him in scenes with these people. Cause it's just like even more apparent, like, oh, there's no connection here. Like even before those that storyline that they had with like Franco and Ava and Niz, right? And like doing that kind of like partner swapping stuff, like, I mean, of course, the Franco and Ava stuff was great because Roger and Maura worked great together. But like the Niz stuff, I was like, this is not, I'm not a Niz shipper, but this is not Niz. This is an aberration. Like, this is neither giving me the friendship, nor the sexual tension, nor the romantic relationship connection that I would expect from Niz at this point.
You were like, Niz is not giving.
Niz is not giving. And like the thing about Niz is that it gave even when I didn't want it to. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like Niz drew me in very much against my will, like the first time around.
Oh yeah.
And even like when they were kind of rehashing it when she was with AJ and then like rehashing it with Drew, there still was part of me that was like, Elizabeth, what are you doing? Just be with Nicholas. Like, you're fumbling the bag, even though I didn't want them together because that connection was so undeniable. It was toxic, but the connection was undeniable. And that's not.
I mean, we should be devastated that Nicholas and Alexis are not in each other's lives. Like, Tyler and Nancy's, like, Nicholas and Alexis was my shit. Like, they together, I could never look away. Those were some of my favorite scenes back in the day. Like, that's what brought me in to the character of Alexis, because, you know, I'm a Sam fan. So I used to look at Alexis like, all right, Natasha, I have nothing for you. But like, what brought me into the character of Alexis was really that connection with Nicholas. And so, like, to not have it, I should be devastated. And now I'm just like, you good.
And so I was thinking about Nicholas's relationship with Sunny. Now, the dynamic between Sunny and MC's Nicholas is totally believable. I could totally believe that Sunny would intimidate and could bully this Nicholas, right? But I don't see it when it's Tyler Christopher. Like, if Tyler Christopher and Sunny were going at it, I would believe that's a dangerous combination, because I believe that Tyler could probably whip Sunny's ass if he wanted to, if he tried, if he didn't have a gun or anything. If it was a knockout, I think it would be a real competition. And the Cassadines and Sunny Corinthos were both really powerful people in the community. So I would think that if Nicholas was like, don't mess with my family, Sunny might actually, okay, maybe let me think about this. But with MC playing it, it's totally believable that Sunny would grab his arm and Nicholas would cry out, oh my God, you know, just like, I do not see Tyler Christopher cowing down to Sunny Corinthos in that same way. So it's funny because the new dynamic between Sunny and Nicholas now is believable, because I think that MC is that weak.
Coloma is playing Nicholas Cassadine. He's still like auditioning to be on State of Mind. Like, I'm over him. Like, I hate it. I'm over it.
But yeah, he's not intimidating at all. But I think Tyler Christopher would be intimidating.
Yes, and that was like the scenes between Tyler's Nicholas and Sunny were of equals.
Right.
Like it you never knew who was going to come out on top at the beginning of the scene. And it was actually like split pretty equally, them one-upping each other, them, you know, and their power struggle, especially after Courtney. And so like there's something about, there's like the physical strength, but then there's also just that sense of personal power.
Yes.
That Tyler always brought to Nicholas. And you can really see the lack of that sense of personal power from Marcus's Nicholas, especially when he's coming up against people who have a big sense of personal power, like Sunny Corinthos, right? Mm-hmm. Like, say what you will about Mo, and I say plenty every week. Say what you will about Sunny, but he does have, for better or for worse, a very strong sense of his personal power. But I will say, for the Neva scenes, the thing that made me jump up out of my chair, you know, like, I'll talk some shit during the show, but you know it's bad when I'm jumping up and I'm standing up and looking at the screen like, I want to get you. When he said the acquired taste shit, I didn't think I could be more done with him. And then he said that. He was like, we're both acquired tastes. Okay, first of all, neither of you are acquired tastes, because over here, we have caviar, okay, of the highest order. We have the finest in haute cuisine. And then over here, we have aspartame. We have
hot dogs
that have been burnt beyond recognition.
Dry hot dogs. No
dry hot
mustard.
dogs, no condiments, with like
Oh
cold, still in the can, off-brand baked beans with sweet and low sprinkled on it for an extra dose of cancer. That wasn't in my notes, but it just
my God. My God. I don't even know what to say. Oh Lord. All right, I have a hot take. I can't. I have to completely flip it.
what else is there to say, really?
I have to completely flip it. I'm tired of them only knowing how to give Black women paternity secrets.
Yes.
I've had enough. Like the idea, I just really don't want Trina to be Curtis's, but like, why do we got to do this every single time? So Stella was keeping a paternity secret. Jordan kept a paternity secret. And as a matter of fact, the paternity secret with Trina and Curtis possibly is like almost, it echoes so much of the secret that Jordan kept from TJ and Sean. Why we keep doing this? We don't know no other stories besides Maury for these Black women. I just don't like it.
We also have like, we want to like, we talked about this, I think last night, we want to throw it all the way back to the wards. Then we also have some like, there's a historical precedent here at GH. Like, you really can't think of any other stories to tell about Black motherhood.
Right. It's just like everybody's like, I want Gia to show back up with like Nicholas's baby. I want Maya to show back up with AJ's baby. I also want to build some legacy families back out. I don't want no more Black women just having random babies coming back with them. Like, it's just needed, like just anything else. Anything else. Not the secret on their behalf. You know what I mean? Like, it's too much.
It's your level of tired that's killing me. Like, you're just like, I've had enough.
Right.
I'm tired of it. I don't want any more.
I mean, they have a good reason to have Gia come back. Hello, Trina is in some serious trouble and none of the adults are doing anything about it.
And she's a lawyer, right?
And she's a lawyer.
Because we got to get her away from Scotty after we saw this week.
Right. Scotty, he got the wrong crayons on his briefcase this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing is that they again, with the Trina storyline, if they bring in anyone else competent, then it all just like crumbles.
Right.
So I feel like that's like, if they bring Gia back, they're just going to make her look stupid.
Oh.
Like everyone looks stupid in the storyline. So I don't want that for her, but
yeah, that's a real sad commentary that we can't trust that Gia would come back as a competent, strong, capable lawyer who can do her job and not have baby daddy issues. It's really sad.
Yikes.
They couldn't think of any way to bring back Amy without making me never want to see her again.
No.
Bye, Amy.
Sorry, Risa.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah. The whole, it's so Cherry will be coming to a close, as I'm sure everyone has figured out. I think there's still scenes for tomorrow to close them out, but it's because the actor is leaving California. And damn, I'm still really disappointed. And like bringing Amy in this way as the reason why the storyline, like why the relationship isn't working out. There's just a lot of things that I'm like, why? Like, why did she have to be this obnoxious? Like, I guess there's part of me that's like glad that they didn't just drop it, which is I think something that they normally would have done. That they gave the reason for the relationship not working out was really about external circumstances, but I also, why did we have to watch? I would have rather have seen more Cherry and then have external circumstances like come up and split them up than spend so much time building up the Amy conflict, because it's like they had to create that bridge in order to close it out. I'm assuming that they brought Amy in that way, knowing where they were going to end up. And so I'm just kind of like, that's a weird choice. And I'm just in general sad about it because I liked them together. They were very cute. They were getting very good reception from the audience, from what I was able to see. They had great chemistry. I'm just sad to see another like couple I actually like go, because it's, you know, there aren't very many that I actually do like. And especially a couple where like there was lightness and just like fun, flirty, like they did talk about deep stuff, like it wasn't shallow, but it wasn't like tragic. So I will say, the one thing I will give them, thank you for not giving them like a completely tragic ending. I'll give you that because I'm feeling generous in this moment. Who I'm not feeling generous towards, Gregory and Alexis. What an awful meet cute. Like I know they already know each other, but those scenes were trash. I just don't, I'm not into any man talking to a woman the way that Gregory talked to Alexis. Like, let me flirt with you by putting down your professional work and like mansplaining to you how much better I am at theoretically doing something that you're doing. I also like don't like academics, so that's part of it. Where it's like academic men who are like sitting here like, I teach classes about that. So when Alexis was like, yeah, you may teach it, but like, what do you actually do? I actually did resonate with that because I see that a lot. I do unfortunately interact with a lot of academics. And so I'm familiar with that dynamic where they're like, I studied this. And I'm like, yeah, but what have you done? But in general, like, I think that is a very well-established trope of like, we're kind of like professional rivals and there's like a little bit of a love-hate relationship. I just don't enjoy seeing a man talk down to a woman in that way. It's not romantic to me. You know, and Alexis is an annoying character and I still don't like it. And I'm bitter about Harm Lexus, that like this is like that we were queer baited for so many months about that. And then you go straight into like the most basic ass heterosexual trope out there. So I am an anti-shipper. It's not just that I don't like it, I am anti it. And so I hope that y'all are prepared for me to talk shit on this pairing every time they are on my screen.
Well, I don't know if you'll be surprised by this, but I enjoyed it because I do not like one. And this is weird. This is me not separating the character from the actor because I can't stand the actor and I can't stand the character either. But then I always had like, I couldn't stand the hypocrisy of Alexis for a long time. And NLG just gave me another reason not to like her. So I like that he was criticizing her. I was like, yes, take her down a notch. But yeah, I agree. I mean, he was basically very condescending and not quite sure how that's romantic and how that will come across. I think they're trying to do a polar opposite type thing. And I don't know. I mean, which is more a more benign polar opposite type thing than she had with Julian, but I don't care about it. I loved Violet. She's so cute, but she's also in people's business that she didn't need to be in. But I love her. Like, grandfather, you're not being a nice person. I was like, oh, she's so adorable. But yeah, just for the sake of me not liking Alexis or NLG.
And see, you were like, I like Violet. I was like, damn, why they keep trying that little baby girl out in all the Chase men relationships? She ain't got to be doing all that. Violet ain't got to do all this heavy lifting for these men. My God.
Violet's got to be so tired. Because they, you know what they saw? They were like, you know, she can carry Michael Easton on her back. Let's see what else she can carry too. See if she can carry this other grown man on her back too. They had her playing frisbee by herself.
And Bubbles.
This child a friend. They're playing
hella babies that y'all have handed out all over fucking town that she could have a friend. Like, why are there no like legacy characters? Like, she should be friends with Scout. You did all of this to bring Scout out.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even give that girl, the baby who plays Scout, a little happy birthday shout out. Her birthday was the other day.
Oh,
give
you know all that.
A friend.
I think what else I'll say about those scenes. Chris and Dan wrote them personally. Nancy talked about it in her soap opera digest, whatever. So the head writers thought, this is how we want to start things out. This wasn't just something they, you know, gave some general direction for and someone else fleshed out. This is what the head writers of this TV show think that people want to see from a romance, because they weren't writing it from a place of not liking, you know, Alexis and wanting to see her, right, get her due. Like, they were writing it from a place of like, boy, people have been asking for romance and we're gonna give it to them.
This is not it.
Do not give.
Love splaining in the afternoon. Well, everyone, it is no surprise what I hated. Sonny. Mike and Nina Reeves. That man is not Sonny Corinthos. That man is Mike Reeves. What the hell did I just watch? That whole court hearing. I'm like, when I walk out and I'm like, Team Milo, there is a reset that needs to happen. Okay? I don't want to be Team Milo. It's gross.
Yeah.
When in the preview where Willow snatched up Nina, I was like, snatch her up, girl. Me? Rooting for Willow? I just like, I also think that they just shouldn't have done the Philadelphia or like the Pennsylvania trial. I feel like that actually was just like a waste of time and didn't do anything, because at the very least, this is messy. I'm like, yeah. And Tara Port Misery said, and I laughed that like the timeline wrote these like rebuttals. It was like everything from the 6th, like, you remember when the timeline exploded because they said that like Nina had kept him away for 9 months. People were like, it was 6 months. I'm like, can you please tell me the appropriate amount of time to lie about a man's identity that you're like that you are like falling in love with? Tell me the appropriate amount of time.
Well, you know, now I was seeing some stuff. I don't see most of the commentary on this because I have so many mutes going, but I did see some stuff where people were then going really like into the weeds on the dates to try and say it wasn't even 6 months. It was like 5 months, 3 weeks and some change. And I was like, right, because it's 6 month threshold when this starts to be unacceptable.
I said something like, I can't believe that Nina thieved Sonny's soul for 9 months. and personally burnt down Phyllis's bar and danced on the ashes.
I saw it. It was in the deleted scenes, the ashes part, but it happened.
It happened. In my head canon, it happened. It was just I continue to be annoyed that, and I think that why I'm so resistant and why I talk about it so much, that is because it is like men trying to force me to like a couple that they have not done their due diligence to write, and like accept writing that they have not done their due diligence to rooting characters. And it's really hard for me to watch. So there's like this, they just kept trying to make excuses. And if you have to keep making excuses because the masses are saying something is wrong, then that means that you need to like go back to the drawing board and stop trying to convince me. It's just not good. Like, I'm not a Carson shipper, said it millions of times, but y'all have force fed us Carson for how fucking long? So if you're gonna break up a pairing like that, then it actually needs to be done right. And not only did you break up a pairing, but then you like stripped away like so much. You stripped away basically everything that made Sonny even remotely rootable. Like, I never rooted for Sonny, but like, he's still cheating on his wife. He's still ordering hits. He's still mobbing around town. He hasn't changed. Like, he's not a different character. The only thing that you've done is take him away from his family. And like, what we've always been sold is that Sonny's a mobster with a heart of gold because he's a family man. And so to have Scott like put Michael on the stand and bring up Claudia when we know the fallout from the Claudia story.
Right.
And then to have Sonny just sit there and look stupid and then stroking his cheek afterwards. And then when people are still like, fuck him and fuck this couple, and people are like, y'all, Nina can never do anything right. Well, yeah, thank you for noticing. She can't. She sucks. I'm not really clear. I think I've said this. It's not a got you for you to say that I hate Nina. You're correct. And because she's a bad character and they've written her poorly. And if you stand her, instead of talking to me about it, you should call Chris and Dan and tell them to write her better. Because it's bad. And even with Carly, of course, whatever, like Carly keeping these DNA results, I think that in the future we'll find out she's just not going to say anything at all. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's not right. Like, I'm not going to be like, Carly was right and here's why she was right. I'm like, that shit was stupid. That don't change the fact that Nina's awful.
No.
And actually, I missed a little bit of the way because I just rewatched. We were going to deep dive into it this week. We'll probably do it next week. I rewatched the arc of Nina kidnapping Avery when it was Michelle Stratford. And I was like, oh no, I could have gotten down with this. Like, this Nina was cray cray. Like, and so they've like actually not taken away that Nina's been crazy. Everything that Nina has done has been fucking crazy. But we're like supposed to think it's not crazy because she be whispering.
Yeah. I mean, when I rewatch that arc, I can't help but be like, now this is Anita. Now this is Anita Reeves. And that I have had moments where I've like hated Nina, but I actually never hated her character overall until the Nixon Falls arc. And a lot of it has to do with the propping, but also just like that. When I liked Nina the most was when she just was like, yeah, I'm crazy and what? That I can get down with. It's the victim stuff that I can't really deal with. And I think with the courtroom scenes, you know, I'm definitely not I've talked about this differentiation with Tracy before. I'm not team Milo. I could never be team Milo, because that to me implies some sort of like ongoing relationship, and I do not care to have that. I kind of see it as like, I'm temporarily aligning with you in this moment. But I will say that like I left those scenes feeling more sympathetic towards Michael than I have in a long time. And certainly towards Willow, which I think has actually been pretty consistent in the arc of the story. Like I think of Wiley's adults, right, of the people who are like actively like fighting over him, she is to me the most sympathetic, and that in part is because she's also not in on a lot of the secrets. But I'll give props to Chad. I thought his performance was actually really good this week. When he was being interrogated by Scott about the Claudia stuff. Like it felt very grounded. It reminded me also, he wasn't the Michael that was on trial. Or was he?
He was
like, which happened like right before the trial or something. So he wasn't the Michael that killed Claudia, but he was the one that dealt with all the consequences.
Yeah, they cast him right when like Dante went to go find him because he had ran away.
Right.
So that was like when Chad first started.
And I just remember like I liked the recast. Like I liked him as the new Michael. It felt like they needed someone a little bit more mature and like grounded, versus that other Michael who was very like all over the place and chaotic, which, whatever. But for like the arc that they were going forward with Michael going to prison and also his sexual assault, like I thought Chad did really well in all those scenes. And it's for me, Michael, the character of Michael has really deteriorated since then. So it was nice to be like kind of reminded of that, of his entrance onto the canvas with that. And what really didn't work was anyone thinking that that was like a slam dunk on Scotty's part. Because I was just like, why are you bringing up something that actually makes Michael look very sympathetic? And I thought it was an interesting choice to not address. It's like you're bringing up this thing that also like Michael was actually assaulted because of all of this. And this is all things that Sonny did as a parent that put Michael in this position. Like he actually really put his family in danger by his whole involvement with Claudia, being married to her,
being abusive to her,
also not believing people when they were like, hey, she was the one that got Michael shot. Like, and then humiliate, like doing that whole public humiliation thing that was all about his ego that got Carly kidnapped, that like led to all of this. So to me, it just like bringing all that up just brings everything back to Sonny. And yeah, like I enjoyed Claudia as a character until they, wrote her into a corner. And then she became very, very annoying because it was like clear that there was just like no future for this character and she was just spinning out all the time. But like, bringing up that period in time as a way to make Michael look bad just is not strategic in the slightest. It was also interesting to see like Diane's reaction because that was also her case that she defended Michael on. So yeah,
I don't know why she didn't counter or cross-examine and bring up those points that Scotty was trying to bring up, because she totally could have like exposed that a lot of Michael's reactions and the things that he did wrong was because of Sonny and the life that Sonny exposed him to. And so I was like, why is he trying to, well, I understand why Scotty was trying to do it, but why didn't Diane or even Michael really kind of bring up that really, not only am I justified not having Nina be in Wiley's life, I'm justified not having Sunny in Wiley's life, because Sunny put me into all of these situations where I had to kill someone, where I had to fight for custody of Avery. He could have explained all of that, and the judge would have sided with Michael immediately. Now we don't I don't really know how the judge feels about this case, except that they're annoyed with the lawyers.
Yeah.
You know,
I am gonna, I think, try to like be off the timeline for like a week or so, because one of the things that I realize is so much of my reaction to some of the stories is like the pushback I see of people. I'm like, how could you think that? And so like I think this, as opposed to like just watching it like straight. Because some of my push, like I was like seeing people be like, yes, Scotty, tell Michael, but like I'm like, this is the Sandra Point the most sympathetic I've ever, like I've seen Michael for a long time. And it also was like a reminder for me, especially because I bought this up a couple times that we did that Sam or Kelly Monaco appreciation space, that one of the relationships I really miss on the screen is like Sam and Michael. And that like part of the worst thing they did to Michael was like stop relying on relationships and just like start doing just plot points to plot points to plot points. The last real relationship that we saw of Michael was him and Chase, that everybody loved, and then he fucked Chase over. So yeah, anyway, I want to try to watch it without that, because I was like getting really frustrated when people were like acting as if Scott had like some kind of slam dunk. I'm like, nothing that Nina did is defensible. And even like the idea that, yeah, Michael, of course, is on some petty shit and trying to punish Nina. And that doesn't make anything else that he said wrong. I like pulled a clip of that second visit she did with Wiley, that after Jax blackmailed him, or blackmailed Michael, where she was like whispering and telling Wiley that like she was hiding Sunny, and like, should I tell them? And she's like talking shit about Carly to him. It was unhinged. It was unhinged. And that's not even one that like Michael knows about. So yeah, they are petty. Yeah, everybody's a mess. And because I'm a mess as a parent does not mean that I don't get to say that you mess can't see my kid. So anyway, I just thought it was like really poorly written. And now I think that we're entering into like redemption. I was like also telling Sandra that I think that the Invader article was actually just like a point of them trying to redeem Nina. Because it's clear like from the lawyers' conversation that they're like responding to some of the backlash. So like the 9 months to 6 months is why they gave Diane the dates. Like everything that Diane said was like directly from the timeline about like, it was your family, it was this, it was that. So I also think that like the Invader article is like a way of like trying to like give Nina that redemption arc, because people like treated her weird for a day. And that like this Carly piece, which is very Carly, holding these results, is also like a way of giving her that arc.
I guess. I'm still mad that we didn't get to read the article.
I want it. Where's the next one in the series? Send it straight to my inbox, please.
Right. It looks basic, to be honest. Sorry, Schmaltz.
I mean, the headlines seem yeah, I don't know. I wanted to see it. Yeah, and not a lot of people, I guess only either the late who was it? Portia and
Stella
and Epiphany only gave her the side eye, but I guess the rest of the town was like, oh, this was bad.
Well, I would like to see it.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen off screen. I would like to see it. I would like to see every like her go into every place and people be like, oh, it's that baby snatcher.
You need to give the baby back. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do? No, none of that.
Anyway,
no judgment, nothing.
Any other hot takes before we move to previews?
Yes.
Yes. Tell us.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the love triangle.
Yes.
So what I really loved about this week and the love triangle was how much it was about Trina's point of view. And like literally, you know, we talk about like the male gaze in like literary and media analysis, right? Where we talk about how like so much is about the men's point of view, but also like their visual gaze and the way that they look at women in particular. And so I loved that the Trina and Rory pool scenes were like 100% about Trina's gaze. Like the slow-mo of Rory getting out of the pool, like the zoom in on his body and like all of that mirrored with Trina and the sunglasses. Trina and the sunglasses is iconic. I'm never gonna forget it. Like the slow lower. I was screaming. Like I was just like, go, yes. And that is the kind of stuff that I would like to see more of in the future. Like more of that. Like her being kind of like, I'm sorry, what? Like when he was talking to her, and like it's funny because he assumed that she was like distracted because of Spencer, and she is like later on in the scene, but like it's really because she's just like, damn, I'm fine. Like you're fine, right? You're wet, and you're right here in front of me, and so I'm distracted. And like even her being like, you know, I'm just like, I'm not used to being out in the sun. It's my first time out in a like I was like, Trina. I love it. And we even got some of that in her scene with Spencer at the gallery after Rory left, where like there were a few moments where you kind of like catch her stealing glances at Spencer and then like her kind of looking away. And even those small things where we get to like tap into Trina's desire more, which I think is also a shift in the character that we didn't get to see as much with Trina previously. We got to see a little bit of that, like when she first ran into Spencer on the pier, and they do that shot, like kind of going over to, you know, Spencer's body, and like there are moments where, you know, where Trina would kind of like step up to Spencer and flirt with him a little bit, and then he would come back with too much heat, and she would kind of be like, but it was rare to kind of see her looking at him for any kind of extended period of time, and really like exploring that desire. So I really liked that. And then I liked how while those Rowena scenes were happening, there was the Spesme scenes that were happening, and like the contrast there was amazing, because like Rowena just sitting here having this very cute like hot girl summer conversation, and we got War of the Roses happening over at Windermere. Right. I mean, wow, it was peak Cassadine. And Nicholas Chavez did such a great job with those scenes. And Avery did too, of course. A lot of it was about, you know, I already talked about this, but like so many of his scenes right now, except for with Cam and now Sam, have all been subtext. And he plays that very skillfully as an actor. But this was a scene where like these scenes for him on Friday were so much about him like losing control over his ruse and like kind of watching him spiral, because in some ways it's very effective in that Trina doesn't realize what he's up to and she's doing her own thing, and he has to watch that play out. But also it's not very effective because he hasn't gotten, you know, any real information yet. We'll see what happens of the stuff with Sam, but like so much of that scene with him and Esme was about him like trying to stick with the plan and also like unable to stop from being baited by her, because there is like a push and pull there, but at the end of that scene Esme was the winner. Her little smug smile, who does a smug smile better than Avery Pohl? Not very many people. if any. Like, she was just like so pleased with herself because she got him to completely lose control. So I really liked it. It's along the lines of like what I need to see also from Spencer's redemption arc, is like Trina out here having fun and you know, having her fun, sexy pool time, and then Spencer over here dealing with the consequences of his actions and really struggling around it. And, you know, everyone played their part very well in those, you know, that ecosystem of scenes.
Yeah, I really like what you said about the gay, like, because so much about the like male gaze, because I think that so much of Sprina has really been about Spencer's desire. And it was actually necessary to make that work, right? Like that we had to see this like over desire of Spencer to like overcome the fact that he like has a girlfriend in her face. So we had to see the struggle of like why it was hard for him to let go of Esme, and like the very clear falling for Trina despite that. And so we have not gotten a lot of Trina's gaze. We didn't really get it under Sydney. Like every once in a while it'd be something, but it would just be a slip. The first time I ever remember her like really, especially after Esme, like look after Esme's appearance, like looking at Spencer and like showing like a desire or like a want or like any kind of feelings towards him, was in the gallery scenes after she had done her art exhibition, where she saw them like kissing and she looked like, damn. And then there was a couple scenes where we would see like him walking away, but it was always like angsty. It was never, it didn't really feel so much like flirty fun desire. It felt like angst. And so what I appreciated about Rowena was that it was that. And so Tabiana had did like a very like one of the quick takes in Soap Opera Digest. And she also, if you haven't listened to like the Twitter spaces that we did where she like came in and like answered a bunch of questions, like you should go back into like our audio and listen to it. But she was like talking about, and she talked about in this interview about being a Twilight fan and like the love triangle there. And so much of that love triangle is about like what is easy and like natural versus like what is that shit you just cannot escape. That like, even though that you know it's not the best for you, even though you don't really like even want it specifically, like it's like a pull that you can't deny. And so I think that's like, that's like my favorite trope of a triangle. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing it. I mean, we'll see how I feel about it, but like, that's what I've been looking forward to seeing play out, which is that like, it's not that one relation, like, it's not like the one with Rory is like something that wouldn't work out or wouldn't be cute. Like, that's not the point of that triangle. Like, it is something that would be cute, and it is going to be like have people who are fans of it, because it should, like, that's the reason the triangle is good, versus like the one that's like, oh no, but this is like where this is where your head is and this is where everything else is. And those are my favorite kind of triangles to see play out.
Yep. I know I shouldn't,
but I can't help it.
I can't help it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just had a quick one regarding Chase in Brooklyn. Remember that happened as well, even though
barely.
Can kiss it.
I know, but yeah, I just don't. When we talked about this, I guess before, like wondering why we don't just allow Brooklyn and Chase to move forward. They're just throwing obstacles that way. I also do not like the obstacle. I think Drew said it best. Just, write your own music and move on. Just like, please. And then she's trying to pull Chase into doing something somewhat illegal, and he's not trying to do it, and just recognizing that she's still, grieving over Bailey. I mean, it's interesting, but no, it's not working for me. So
they're the kind of pairing that I think actually has more conflict if they were together than the conflict that they're trying to give them apart. Like they're different enough as people that if you put them together, there's a lot of organic conflict between their personalities that would be a lot more interesting than trying to come up with all these reasons why. To me, like characters like Chase and Brooklyn shouldn't have a hard time getting together. They're hot. They've already confirmed their attraction for each other several times. They're really good friends. They obviously care about each other. Like, what's happening here? Now, together, like, he's a play by the rules person. She wouldn't know a rule if it like slapped her in the face. Like, please, let's play with some of that and then have their like, no, we'll just work it out by having sex. And like, oh, I guess it doesn't always work out that way. Like there's like lots of ways they could play with tension and conflict that isn't this. I do kind of get where Brooklyn's coming from as far as like someone who sexually, like basically sexually assaulted you, or yeah, I will put actually sexual harassment very much in the umbrella of sexual assault because it's all part of rape culture. Like I get you don't want that man like making money off your music and also like making it into something that it's not, because it's also like a direct attack against her. Because he knows he can, and it's an abuse of power. So like I get why she's doing it. I just wish it wasn't the story. It's just like more tragic shit that doesn't that their storyline actually just doesn't need. And I really want it, just turn it into an Eddie Maines Jr. storyline. Like make it fun, make it wacky, like stop trying to make everything like it's like what it's this is not an Agnes Nixon soap opera. Y'all actually aren't equipped to do these like social issue storylines because you half-ass it. Like, don't give me this like Me Too storyline while you have Elizabeth in this like Victorian era like yellow wallpaper storyline at the same time. Just stick to what you can do.
I mean, it's also that I think that a lot of the actors on GH like enjoy the dramatic storylines.
Sure.
But dramatic storylines have to be balanced out. And like we don't really have any couples balancing the canvas. And so it should be, let's get Chase and Brooklyn together. Let's get them in something wacky, something fun. And then something can happen that moves them into like something that's like dramatic. But they never do that. It's just all drama, drama, drama. And what you're pointing to, Sandra, is like character development, relationship development, like all of these things that GH just does not do. And it's really messed up because that is like the more interesting thing to watch. How interesting would it be if Brooklyn and Chase were together and he was like helping her find her voice and like writing music again? And like that, like in the same way that we have like an artist motif, like being the Sabrina kind of connection, like music being the Chilin connection. You actually don't need all of this extra outside like angst to do that, and then you could get there. But like everything just doesn't need to be that. And it's really unfortunate. And again, I mean, I will harp on this. It's because it's all men in charge who don't know how to do that nuance. It was funny, friend of the show Susie was talking about we were talking about like Frank, and I was like, I actually don't have too much of an issue with Frank. I mean I do, but I don't. And Frank is like a player's coach, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody, when you listen to them, they'll like all the actors will be like, oh, we love Frank, he lets us do whatever, he like is very supportive. And so it's like the same as like if you have a team that like is losing, but they're like, you can't fire our coach because we love our fucking coach. And that's how I feel about Frank, that he just kind of like allows the actors and like gives them the space to do that what they need to do. And so the problem is like the writing. The problem is that like the people who are writing the show have no context, like don't respect the history of it, and don't like care about the genre of soap.
my final word on this is, was it not enough for Brooklyn to literally lose her voice? But on top of that, she's gonna have her creations taken and skewed, and I'm trying to find a better word than bastardized, and I'm not, but you know what I'm saying, like have her creations like taken apart and redone beyond recognition by her abuser. I think it was enough to take away her voice. It was actually too much, but yeah, I'm good. Well, this is me. I'm not a Brooklyn fan. This is, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a hater, but I'm not a fan. And like, this is too much. Leave her alone. Let her fuck Chase, and let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Speaking of keeping moving.
Speaking of keeping it moving, why don't you take us to previews?
All right. So we have another short week. Since today is a rerun, which I believe it's the episode where Spencer has to beg Cameron for a job. So I do look forward to rewatching that after this. What a great moment. But so this week, of course, we're gonna have, you know, the court visitation hearing closing out. So Tuesday, we have emotions run hot at the courthouse for the visitation hearing. Wednesday, the judge makes her verdict. And then Thursday, as Carly, Michael, and Willow process the verdict, Drew approaches. Sonny worries when he can't reach Nina. And in the park with Wiley, Jocelyn takes action. Friday, Sonny makes a discovery. Then we have this little arc involving a society setups event that will be happening throughout the week. So Britt, Brad, Drew, Brooklyn, Chase, and others gather in their summer best at the Metro Court pool for a society setups event. Wednesday, as the cocktails flow, Britt causes a scene at the event before things take a drastic turn. And then Thursday, upset Britt urges Dante to make an arrest. While Maxie, Sam, Spinelli, Brad, Brooklyn, and Chase look on. For the sex tape storyline and the Cassadines, we have Ava and Laura talk over target practice on Tuesday. Wednesday, Nicholas and Esme are tempted. Thursday, Spencer and Ava look for Esme and Nicholas. Friday, Jocelyn asks Cameron if they can talk. Awkwardness pervades when Portia and Taggart open the door to Rory and Trina. Cool. And Ava notes that Nicholas is acting strange. There's also a couple other spoilers involving some couples that we enjoy. On Friday, Sam's surprised by what she hears about Dante. So there is supposed to be a secret from Dante's past coming back. And finally, and honestly, most importantly, on Wednesday, sparks fly as Anna challenges Valentine.
Hey. Great way to end on a happy note.
Very excited for Vanna.
Yes. Very, very. I'm ready.
I'm ready for Vanna. Yuck and ick to ick.
Yes. It's not looking good.
So both Spencer and Ava are gonna walk in on them.
I don't think so. I don't think that they're gonna walk in on them doing anything terribly like damning. I do wonder if something happens before they're found. That would be my speculation, but there's definitely, it feels like some sort of progression is happening. And Avery basically confirmed in Soap Opera Digest that Esme is, going to attempt to seduce Nicholas. Whether or not she succeeds, Avery was very coy about. She's like, well, I guess we'll just have to watch. Because who knows how to talk to media? Avery Pohl. Some other people. Yeah. I am interested to see what happens with that arc. Although it's like, that is like the thing I'm least interested in. And so every time I look at the spoilers and like Trina isn't the center point of the arc for the teens for the week, I'm always annoyed. That's me. I am interested to see like what that Spencer Ava stuff will look like. Like, are they looking for them together? Are they looking for them separately? And I'm still always holding out for the day when Spencer and Ava are forced to team up. It's like, I just need it. It doesn't mean that like everything's going to be resolved between them and like she's going to be his mom now or any of that. I don't expect the characters to like suddenly be well behaved, either one of them, because would I even love either of them as much if they were?
Right.
But like those moments when people who are normally like very much at odds have to work together, I live for them. I live for them.
Love it. Well,
Harley's gonna get the results. I forgot to mention that. She gets the results for the paternity test, or not paternity, maternity, the DNA test. And doesn't choose to share it. Which, yeah, I mean, Caroline Benson.
Where's Robin? That's who can like give us the results.
Just come out of retirement for a hot second to move the storyline along, because nobody does a reveal like Kimberly McCullough.
Nobody does a DNA reveal that reads the fuck out of Carly, like across Carly's. Okay.
But there has to be like some sort of wedding or something so she can bust in.
She does a really great job of busting up a wedding.
Or a christening.
Like, but Kimberly's like, listen, I'm tired. You already got me out here once this year. Now leave me alone. I am looking forward to the MetroCorp pool scenes just because like I'm so glad the pool's back open. It's my favorite set. I'm glad that they have like, we're finally getting some of those scenes where there's like a big group scene and weaving in and out of storyline there. I don't really care about the Brit stuff, mostly because they're bringing on Josh Kelly, who used to be on One Life to Live, for her. And I'm like, but I wanted her with Austin. And
yes,
now that mean that Maxie and Austin are still going to be together, or there's definitely some agenda shipping, transparently agenda shipping there. But I am excited that like Sam's going to be there, Dante, Spinelli, Maxie, Brooklyn, and Chase. Like I'm excited to see these folks like mix it up and do some dramatic shit and look hot and flirt with each other. I mean, please.
I want something real for my Sante.
I know.
Give my Sante a story. I was the one who was holding off. I was like, guys, it's fine. They're like weaving in and out. Give them a story. I've been patient. I want it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that has been an episode.
A Monday shift.
Monday shift.
Monday shift.
Hopefully that doesn't get us flagged for copyright. I don't know the song, but we don't.
I'm making it up.
They flagged us.
Yeah.
At least she's an artist.
And there's our Office reference. Because we gotta have one every time. It's not an episode of Sunday Shift, aka Monday Shift, if we do not have a reference to The Office.
It's true.
All right, well, we're gonna post this up and go along with our day. I think I'm gonna watch Titanic Part 2.
Oh.
I found out last night there's a Part 2 and a Part 3.
Right, but part unaffiliated.
Part 3 is like called Titanic 666.
Right.
And it's a thriller.
Part 2 is like modern day Titanic launching at the same day that the Titanic launched, like 100 years later.
Taking the reverse course.
Reverse course, right? What could go wrong?
That was like exactly what was written. What could go wrong? So that's
we watched Titanic last night, which is how this all came to be.
So that's what I'm on.
All right. Well, enjoy.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.